Hello and welcome to the Winging It F1 podcast. It's the 50th episode for our amazing podcast, which I'm sure you've listened to every single episode. That means there's 50 hours worth of recording for our podcast. That's amazing. So if you got 2 days free and you don't want to sleep, why don't you go back and listen to every single one, including this one? Right now, I guess. That was awful. I'm joined by Freddie Coates.
No change there at the start.
As usual. Yeah, no change. How are you guys doing this week?
Yeah, I'm all right. I think it's 50 hours is a long time, and then there's probably another at least 25 hours, probably closer to another 50 on top of that of like pre-recordings and waiting for Nigel to wake up and all of that isn't recorded. So yeah, that's quite. I've not thought about it like that before, but it's quite a weird way to think about it. But yeah, I'm all right. I've finished exams now, and I know both of you have as well. So I'm enjoying the freedom of that and being able to do a bit more of writing that I'd like to, really.
More matches on Tinder this week, Freddie.
Actually, I got three more matches. So hooray! Still waiting for replies for about 4 days because everyone's ghosted me. But oh well. Adam's looking very confused. I put a picture on Twitter of a Tinder match because she was called Anya. So I said, sail away, sail away, sail away. And I got a reply and haven't got one since. So anyway, I'm doing good. I was telling Nigel I'm having a really good day for some reason. I don't know why. Just waiting for lectures to kick up again in 2 hours. 2 weeks even.
2 hours.
So
2 hours off.
50 episodes. We started way back in end of June, start of July, before the 2020 F1 season. A lot has happened since. So, do you guys want to talk about, the podcast and stuff outside of it, the best bits and stuff like that over the last 7 months?
It's bonkers to see how we've kind of developed. I'd imagine if we look back to the first few episodes, there's probably quite a lot of similarities, but probably quite a lot of differences between how we do these podcasts. I think we've really played into the type of winging it as we've gone on with the 50 episodes. We were very cautious and structured, I think, for the first couple, and then we just gradually fell into let's just chat. Why not? I mean, it's a podcast. It's not a play.
Yeah, I think we've become a bit more polished as Freddie drinks a beer as it goes on. Yeah, right. As we've kind of over the 7 months, I do think there is. I've talked to other people who kind of noticed a decent difference, and I think we kind of got to know each other a lot better, especially I know me and Nigel, I kind of hadn't spoken to him too much kind of before we started the podcast, and now I kind of feel like I know him a lot more, and that is like, yeah, nice. Well, he knows Freddie's long hair a lot better now. So yeah, but yeah, I just think, and I kind of alluded to it in the intro, the kind of recording, the time on the video call that we spend when we're not recording is as enjoyable as on it, and we do have good debates, and I feel like I've kind of improved my F1 knowledge a lot since we've been doing this. So yeah, it's been really good. I have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I massively agree with you both. And we have an episode every week, which I think, considering what else we're doing outside of this, is quite a lot. And we always find things to talk about. Sometimes before a podcast we'll be like, oh, we've got nothing to talk about, this will only be 10 minutes, but then we end up going on for an hour, which is just yeah, it really has been great. Is there any particular things that stand out?
I really enjoyed our season reviews.
Yeah.
I thought our season reviews were some of our best work, and they were a good way to round off our first season, our first year, basically covering Formula One as a group. I was really, really happy with what we put together for that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the times when we're paralytically laughing because of something, that's always the times that I kind of enjoy the most. Trying to think of any episodes that kind of particularly stand out. I'm not sure. There's a few that I've kind of tweeted afterwards. That was very fun to record, but I kind of can't remember the specific ones. But yeah, I think just in general, I guess the feeling as well that it's our thing, because we all write for kind of other sites or other places. So it's kind of nice to have this as like, it's our thing, and just we decide when to do it and what to do with it and all of that. And I quite like having that.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the our thing. Sorry, I was just gonna jump in with one thing that Adam alluded to it there, that I really remember, kind of like the first episode that we did, that I really felt this is really good. This kind of thing was kind of after the Hungarian Grand Prix. We did a rundown of what we thought the 2021 grid would be in the midst of where we thought the silly season was at that point, and we all came back with random grids looking at what we've got now. And that was when the start of the Vettel Perez rumors and stuff like that, and everyone said, oh, it's obvious that Mick Schumacher would be at Alfa Romeo, that kind of thing. And I felt we did a really nice episode there that I was really happy with, and it was one of the first episodes I thought, wow, we're all right at this.
Yeah, that was one of my favourites. I think especially from that one, because that was our 5th episode where we really like kicked on from there and stuff. And also every time we talked about Alexander Albon, I think that's just funny.
I think the Bahrain Grand Prix quiz is one that stands out for me, where I came back from about 5-1 down against Freddie. I think that's one of the highlights.
I think for the first 10 episodes, I was okay at quizzes, and then for the next 40, I just basically ruined all of them.
I'm the opposite. I was useless for the first few, and then got a lot better.
Like you say, your F1 knowledge has got better. Sport was helping.
And Adam, you mentioned before, we're all obviously writing for other bits and sites. So for anyone who doesn't know, you two have become editors for the last lap, which is fantastic. Yes.
Okay. Freddie's not talking. Yeah. Okay. I'm the F1 editor, although I've not had a chance to do much in my editorship because of exams and uni work and all of that. But yeah, I am massively looking forward to it over kind of the next 6 months provisionally, and kind of getting involved in learning a new skill, I guess. So yeah, I'm massively excited about that. And I also write for F1 Feeder Series, which is quite nice. It's different articles normally. It's kind of, I don't know, more opinion-y maybe, but it's quite nice having that balance, and you get more of a kind of Twitter rebound on that, or kind of see more coming out of that. Or I did one on, I think it was American Junior Series drivers, and like there was a subreddit thread on it, and I thought that was quite cool, kind of reading through that, and none of the comments were saying what an awful piece of journalism, so that was nice as well. So yeah, I do both of those, and I also do rugby, but we don't have to go into that.
Oh, you can go into it if you want. Are you sure?
Okay, well, I don't really have an official title, but I help covering WAS for Commentary Telegraph / Commentary Live, which is really good. I really enjoy it, and I've kind of been writing more and more as that's gone through, so I've done kind of play ratings after the match and stuff like that, and I really like that kind of opinions down and all of that. So yeah, I don't know whether that's kind of the path I'll go into when I do go into a career, but yeah, that's my the other side of my sporting journalism endeavours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a tough 12 months for everyone, but I think some of the things we've been doing outside of the podcast, outside of the university, has been great. And Freddie, you've done some very good things too.
Well, I don't know about very good, but I'm now the Formula E Extreme E editor for Last Lap, which is, well, I don't know. I think I could do with a better title, electric editor or something. Came up with that on the spot. I'm going to take that. And I basically am now going, like Adam, haven't had a chance to do much editing. We only finished our exams like 2 days ago, but going to hopefully throw myself into that a bit more and find someone else who's actually going to write about Formula E or Extreme E for Last Lap, because it's all well and good being the editor of only your work. But anyway, that's more it for me. I don't have the same level of wide-reaching journalism than as Adam does. His like he can actually just piece on junior American drivers who could be the next American F1 driver. He did one about Brazilian F1 drivers as well, which was really good. And I think, did you mention how Pietro Fittipaldi probably wouldn't do it? And then
it was
the next Brazilian
about 2
F1
weeks
driver
before Pietro Fittipaldi got announced, and I said, that his claim of it seems pretty far-fetched at the moment. But that didn't go so well. But it was again like a great piece to do.
Yeah, check those out. They're really interesting, and they're sort of pieces that you can still look at now, and even from like you said, November, October time, and they're still quite interesting. I'd say.
Yeah, and what's great, I think, is last lap only started. Was it last year? And you've both been there quite early on from the start or near the start.
It was about summer 2019 is when it kicked off, and I joined pretty much straight away, just kind of like a on-off kind of thing, and then joined to then basically become the Formula E and Extreme E writer for it. And then when I just took that and then got Adam to come in later on, and Adam's mum was just waving into the window, by the way. I completely lost my train of thought because I was laughing at that. And then it sort of picked up gradually as we went through the 2020 season, as was supposed to be like our first big year of last lap, as we got a little team into it. And then there was no racing for half of it, and we still managed to grow. So I think I'm quite excited for last lap for this year. It's coming.
Yeah. Obviously, I'll promise you both, if you keep on writing, doing the stuff, and stay with the last lap or whatever, you know, opportunities will come 100%. You know, you're both great. And
speaking of that, you've just left Motorsport Radio and have joined the English-speaking new version of Netherlands' biggest motorsports site, Racing 365.
Yes, I mean, I was with Motorsport Radio for 3 years, incredibly, a bit more than that, and it was without them, I might not have even been doing journalism. I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast and stuff because without the manager Lester Forbes, he messaged me when I was doing my own little blog, and I started the blog, and after about 9-10 months I was starting to lose motivation for it, because I wasn't getting many views, and I thought, what's the point? But then he messaged me, and then I started writing for them, and I was like, wow, this is the big thing. And Motorsport Radio was quite new then as well. The website hadn't really done much, but I managed to grow with them, managed to write whatever I want, basically. They just gave me complete freedom, and I was just writing so much. I became so passionate for writing about motorsport and writing itself. And then earlier this month in January, I had an opportunity to join Racing News 365, which I just took straight away because, like you said, Freddie, gonna have an English site for the website, racingnews365.com. So go and check that out. There's loads of content about F1 every single day. As I'm filming this podcast, I've not actually done too much for them yet, but I will over the next couple of weeks. But I'm still a bit surprised that I've got the opportunity to do this with them. It really surprised me when they said, they want to join us and stuff. But I'm just super happy to be with them, really.
It's
great.
Yeah, really good. Is that under Floris? Is he?
Yeah, he joined them in December. So he works with both the Dutch and the English website. So
Floris Visman, who is the main man behind F1 Feeder Series, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you were saying about Motorsport Radio, because when both me and Freddie went to Autosport International show about this time last year, actually, and Nigel was there, and with Motorsport Radio, so was Will Holmes, one of our other course mates / F1 journalism friends. There I am asking.
I just put up for audio listeners. I've got a picture that I have on my wall, which is of us, all three of us actually, in a press conference with Karun Chandok that happened about 5 minutes after I arrived, and Adam's there asking him a question. I'm taking notes, and Nigel is looking
Bored.
dapper.
Yeah. I was so stunned that Kareem Chandler was 3 meters away from me. No, okay, carry on, Adam.
Well, just kind of going there. Motorsport Radio had about 8 people there. Like there was me on my own from
more than
series.
Autosport.
Yeah. Like they have more than any other kind of organisation, including the PR agency that were running the media. It was crazy, and they had like proper cameras and microphones with a little fluffy, the actual foam thing on the end with Motorsport Radio printed on it. It was crazy.
There are about 3 or 4 little tables for press to set up on and to put their laptops and to base themselves to write a few little features. And Motorsport Radio basically had a table to themselves, and like a news desk. And it was like, you're definitely playing into the opportunity. It was great. It's the right idea. Went around with your cameras.
The Autosport show was probably the highlight for me so far, interviewing Kareem Chandok one-on-one after that press meeting. I also interviewed David Brabham afterwards as well, which was incredible because he's a fantastic driver, doing everything F1, sports cars, touring cars. He was Roland Ratzenberger's teammate when Ratzenberger sadly crashed in '94 in Imola. He's won Le Mans a few times as well. But yeah, that was probably the highlight for me so far, really, I'd say, in terms of motorsport journalism.
There's probably a ton to talk about the Brabham name coming back, actually. There's probably so much you can talk to David Brabham about, because he's built a whole new sports car and everything called Brabham. I just find that really interesting. But we know that I love the history of F1, so anything that's called, like, I don't know, Tyrrell, I'll scream about and that kind of thing. Or
well, yeah, here's to more stuff this year.
The next 50.
Oh yeah, the next 50 episodes.
When do we think the next the 100th episode will come? Do you think it will be in like just an innocuous race or something?
Yeah, it'll probably be June or July.
And hopefully, do you think what race do you think it would be? Do we think
hopefully it's the British Grand Prix or something?
Yeah, hopefully that'd be pretty good actually.
Where we all get media passes there and get to do it. And we can get podcast on location from
with the sun on the top of the wing. Yeah. From the Mercedes motorhome.
So what have we done? It's 7 months. 7 months we've been doing it. I'm just checking the
17
calendar.
Races we did, and we got not many off weeks with that, obviously. So that was basically 2 a week.
Freddie, you've done every single one. You're the only one out of us three to do every single one.
Yeah, you guys have more lives than me around the podcasts. And we, Nigel and I did one Formula E episode at one point.
Yeah, we did.
We did a Formula E preview and didn't do a Formula E review.
No, so that's still waiting. Invited to that one because of my apparent bigotry towards Formula E. I reckon it will be.
You said when we were planning the idea of it that you'd come on and say, "I don't like Formula E."
I didn't say that. I'd come on and say I know absolutely nothing about Formula E. Well, not absolutely nothing, but there is nothing that I would be able to add to the podcast. That was my view of it. I reckon it could be around the British Grand Prix, actually, if we time it right. Or it could be. It could be kind of.
If we say we time it right, we're not going to plan anything. We're not going to time anything right. We're just going to happen. But
yeah, Hungarian or Belgian, maybe after that. But I might be in America kind of soon after that. So we have an international Winging It F1 podcast.
Worldwide Winging It podcast. WWI. Wow. Isn't that a thing?
World War One.
Yes, that's it.
World War One. I know Joe Biden's just become president, but I don't think that's good enough.
What's true? What?
I don't know.
We're not Trump supporters.
No, we're definitely not.
I'm not saying I'm going to go to war with Mike Biden.
Me and Freddie are not Trump supporters.
And neither am I. Yeah. I think we should move on then after that chat. I don't even know. Yeah, that was good. So thank you as well to everyone.
Thank you for indulging us.
Yeah, to everyone who's listened to any of the podcasts or any of the episodes over the last 7 months. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, we just thank you, I guess. Yeah. Today we're going to talk a bit about Lewis Hamilton's contract, which he hasn't signed, and why he hasn't signed it, as well as what happens if he won't sign it, that should be an interesting debate. There's just a few news pieces that I'm going to talk about first, and I'll try not to mess it up. We've got the Sauber engine deal. They have extended a deal with Ferrari till 2025, which has put to bed any rumours that they were going to change engine partners. Sebastian Vettel and Sergio Perez have been to the Aston Martin and Red Bull factories, well, not both, like for their teams,
respectively.
The joint trip. Vettel has been to the Red Bull factory in his life.
In his life.
Perez would have gone to the Aston Martin factory a couple of weeks ago when he worked there.
Yeah. So
good point.
Come on, Nigel, you need to be specific here. Come on.
I'm not a good news reader. This is why you won't see me on BBC News or whatever.
You're not the next Fiona Bruce.
Not yet, no. It doesn't bode well for next year. That's a good point. Alfa Romeo are going to launch their car on the 22nd of February. I think they are the only teams who have announced a launch date so far. And AlphaTauri are going to run the 2018 car to give some mileage to their drivers. It will be especially important for Yuki Tsunoda because he's a rookie, of course, and will be making his debut this season. Is there anything you want to discuss on any of those points? Not major.
They're doing the AlphaTauri test around Imola, and the last time they did a little random pre-season test around Imola, they qualified fourth on the grid with Gasly. So if they're giving, and Tsunoda's done his first Formula One mileage at Imola, and with Imola being the second race of the year, it could be a good way for Tsunoda to get on top of the intricacies of the car quite soon, really. He's going to have a day and a half or so of testing before Bahrain anyway, at Bahrain. So he'll be able to look pretty good at Bahrain. He'll know the track where he's racing, so he won't just wait for Barcelona to come around like you normally would. And then Imola's the second race. He'll know the track there and the intricacies of that in a Formula One car. So I reckon that would look pretty good for Tsunoda for the first few races, to give him tracks that he knows in a Formula One car, to then build on that top of that knowledge to get a lot of information under his belt as the season starts, which actually he's probably in the best position of the rookies.
Didn't he do a test after the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix last year?
Yeah, he did a
Toro Rosso. Is it going to be Toro Rosso branded?
It might be.
Toro Rosso returning to F1.
Yes, for about 4 hours.
Yes, this is what we need.
I think it probably would be Toro Rosso branded, judging on their previous form when they run old cars, as they just use the livery.
Interesting. Yeah. I think more teams might do these kind of filming days and use an older car, because there's only 3 days of pre-season testing this year, which is not a lot. You know, just a few years ago, we used to have 8 days. So it's been completely slashed to save costs. So it'll be interesting to see if any other teams follow. And then let's get into the big debate, which we've been building up all week throughout our exams and all that stuff. So
what Nigel means there is, I had an idea and said, why don't we do this? And then it was a couple of days ago, and we said, all right, and now we're doing it.
Which is what happens every week.
Throughout my NCTJ exam, I couldn't remember the year of the Crime and Disorder Act because I was too busy thinking about whether Van Dorn is signed up to any other team in the grid.
You could just hear a faint drum roll in the background as we built up to this, just getting slightly louder and louder and louder gradually over the course of 4 days. The build-up.
I thought that meant Freddie was going to put an effect in the edit, but apparently not. Sorry, Nigel.
Debate.
Yeah, he hasn't signed his contract yet. It is nearly February by the time this podcast goes out. What on earth is going on, Freddie Coates?
Okay, what's going on is that Lewis Hamilton hasn't signed anything for as the world champion for the championship winning team. And the last time we've been in this position where a driver hasn't signed for the reigning world champion has got an unclear future of their Formula One career was in 1993, when Senna hadn't signed for McLaren after having lost the 1992 World Championship to Nigel Mansell. What we've got here is rumours going all crazy about why Hamilton hasn't signed. We've got news from Mercedes, obviously, that we reported before Christmas of Daimler, Wolf and Ineos, who have sponsored the team this year, all having a third stake of the team, and new ownership structure for the entire team, which might have brought in entirely different mindsets to the way the team is being managed financially, because who knows what's coming out of what pocket to go where, who's going to foot the bill for Hamilton's salary. Is there going to be more of an impact coming out of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's pocket, one of the richest people in the UK, obviously the CEO of Ineos? And so there's a lot of discussion that was presumably had around the Mercedes team side of it to figure out, okay, what's the salary here? How do we respond to said demands of Hamilton? And there's been rumors about what those demands are. People have been talking about a $50 million a year salary, which when you look at the budget cap for Formula One teams that started in this month, that means that he is valuing himself at the third of the value of a Formula One team, basically. And thankfully, for the team at least, they don't have to pay the driver in that budget caps figure. But it still means that there'll be a significant portion of money going out of their pocket to Lewis Hamilton, just as they think they could potentially be turning a profit from Formula One, only to then maybe have to spend that all on Lewis Hamilton. It's a very interesting situation, which we don't know many details about, but obviously are speculating that Hamilton is making some demands that probably Daimler aren't that happy with, Daimler being the Mercedes automotive car company owners, basically, board. So there's been no words. All that we've seen is some cheeky Twitter posts from Mercedes saying, why don't you use a pen to sign contracts, and then announcing Frederick Vesti, who's an F3 driver, as a junior driver of them. Good signing, but not the one anyone was expecting to be announced. We've got a few Instagram posts in the past 2 days from Lewis Hamilton saying he's altitude training in the mountains, presumably Colorado. I think he's got something out there, where he's cross-country skiing. And we don't know if he's signed to race in Formula One this year. And it's getting closer and closer, which makes it more likely and likely that there is a rift there, because why wouldn't they have announced anything? Previous years, in 2018 2018, when they announced they were going to extend his contract, they announced it in July. 2015 it was Monaco. So when he signed in 2012 for Mercedes from McLaren, that was announced at Suzuka. So October kind of time. He's never left it this late before. It's probably a bit worrying for the bosses of Formula One.
And the longer it goes, I think the higher the risk of him actually not racing this year is possible. And I think I came up with a theory 2 or 3 weeks ago on the podcast about why he hasn't signed a contract, talking about COVID and that he perhaps had a deal before. And I think that could actually be coming to. It could be true, possibly. Can't remember exactly what I said, but go and check it out if you want to. Adam, what are your thoughts on the situation?
Well, firstly, a very good job from Freddie from summing it all up. I thought that was very, in-depth and succinct. So very good. It's kind of hard to comprehend that he might not be on the grid next year. Or we might have seen the last of him in F1. Like that is a genuine possibility, but it feels impossible that is the case. So, it's that's how his F1 career will end. Trailing around at Abu Dhabi in third, was it that he finished?
Third, with Alex Albon closing in.
Yeah, with Alex Albon putting pressure on him for third place. It seems very strange, and I just really hope that he does sign. But as it kind of goes on and on, there's kind of feeling like there's less, kind of genuine reasons that aren't related to a rift, as Freddie said, because, they said that at the start of last season, they said, we've got everything sorted out. It's just a matter of actually formally sitting down and getting it signed. And then there were noises coming out about, he's just waiting for Toto to sign, or Toto Wolff to commit his future, wherever. And then, he'll make his decision based off that. And then in December, I think Toto Wolff committed his future to Mercedes, and, he's still not signed. It's
been over a month since that was announced.
It's just really bizarre. I don't understand, yeah, I kind of don't understand. You know, he doesn't benefit at all if he misses out a season, and a season that he is likely to win an 8th World Championship, very likely to win an 8th World Championship in.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like he's racing better than ever. He won the BBC Sports Personality of the Year in December or November, I think December, and it feels like he's kind of at the top of his game, really, and it could be that he's walking away now, which is, yeah, it's just very incomprehensible.
I'm with you, Adam. I don't understand it, because if you look at the reason, if Formula One is important to him, which I think it is, because or else he wouldn't have rushed to get back into the Mercedes 6 race in Abu Dhabi after he tested positive for COVID. He's got the chance to break Schumacher's record of 7 world titles, which he currently holds with him. He can get over 100 wins as well, possibly this season. And Mercedes were our favourites going into the year again. So it doesn't make sense to pull out now. And I also kind of feel that Hamilton's the type of driver who would announce that he's going to retire like midway through the season or even before a season as like a farewell tour, you know, so that people come to the Grand Prix knowing, oh, this is the last time Hamilton's going to race at Silverstone, last time he's going to race at Belgium, whatever. I feel that if he is going to retire, he would do that. So are there any reasons, Freddie, as to why he would consider a sabbatical this year?
So reasons that I kind of see are, Nigel mentioned it there, he rushed back after his COVID infection for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. He was infected with coronavirus badly. He was sick. He was badly ill. He was having a fever. He was not in the gym. He said he lost a ton of weight and he was not eating or anything. And that's going to have an effect on people. We see not so much in the news as we should about how the mental effect of long COVID and stuff like that, and people having had COVID, and how in April, March of 2020, how it's still affecting them now and that kind of thing. You have to dig to find reports about it, but people get PTSD and stuff like that quite regularly. So that's a harrowing moment for Lewis Hamilton, but he took every possible precaution and he still got ill. And that's, I think, he travels around the world a lot, but he wasn't last year. He was only traveling for Grand Prix. And I kind of think there's an argument to be made there that he doesn't want to put himself at risk, doesn't want to put his family at risk. He doesn't want to put his team at risk. He doesn't want to do that. I would really believe that. And on top of that, you had the massive Grosjean crash at the Bahrain Grand Prix. That Hamilton got in the car afterwards and waltzed to a victory, but it's going to sit on your mind. They'll have seen more and more of that over the coming days afterwards, around his COVID infection as well. So that sits on my mind now, and I'm not a Formula One driver, and it was a horrible moment to watch, and the fact the race restarted, in hindsight, still kind of boggles me. But in terms of the mental challenge that people who were there had to go through, particularly the week after at the same circuit, so I kind of think that surely has got to play and have an impact on the mindset of anyone who's having doubts about Formula One and the future in Formula One. Nigel raises a good point when he says he rushed back to Abu Dhabi. The only kind of argument, it's pure speculation, that's like I'm kind of come to negate that, would be that it didn't fix it for him. He didn't come back to Formula One and find the dream that he was missing out on in the race that he missed, if that makes sense. He came back and it was an innocuous third place. Didn't feel great doing it, and it just didn't answer what he wanted, that kind of thing. And he might have fallen out of love with Formula One in that race. But that's entire speculation. It's obviously pure speculation, but it's something I would believe.
See, I'm not sure, because it feels from what he said, or from everything people who've, none of us have met him, but people who've met him and people who know him and have worked with him, have all said he's the type of person who would take that as a challenge to kind of, overcome that, or, he kind of seems to live for the challenge and the sport of winning and dominating. And I can appreciate Grosjean's crash will have had, huge impact, but he was racing when Jules Bianchi lost his life. He was in the paddock, I think, getting interviewed when Antoine Hubert crashed. He's been in big crashes himself at the start of his career at the Nürburgring. It feels like, if that was kind of, it's not a vulnerability, but if that was kind of something that would, get into his head, it would have got there by now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, yeah, there are all these things, and I do think they're possibilities. And, it feels like if he is thinking about stepping away, it will be maybe one of those, but they just don't seem to fit with kind of the character of Hamilton that has been portrayed over the last 5 or so years.
I mean, go on, Freddie. Yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say that I think I've been really surprised by some elements of Hamilton's character that have come out in the past few years that you wouldn't have seen a couple of years ago. For instance, when he bettered Michael Schumacher's victory record, he got the 92nd win in Portugal, and he went over and hugged his dad and had such a long embrace with his dad, and it was pure emotion there of victory, success, and achievement. And I don't know, everything you hear from Formula One drivers, you go back to Nico Rosberg when he won his title, was taking it race by race. Oh, I don't care about the bigger picture, just thinking about it. And then they have that release, and it felt like he kind of had that. To me, he felt like he had a kind of release there that I'm now the best. That's it, that kind of thing. I don't really know whether there's anything in that. What would you guys say to that?
I don't think that's as much.
Yeah,
in that,
you go.
to be honest. For me, it's.
Fair.
I think the only thing is it's down to money. I really do believe that. Yeah,
Adam. Yeah, if anything, I'd have expected him to come back this season to kind of prove it that he is the best by winning the 8th. Because
good point.
When he's got 7, he's the same as Michael Schumacher. A championship is a championship, and they're all kind of created equal, really. And the wins, that can always be, people will always look down on that or say, oh, he had more races or whatever. There's kind of always things.
He did it in a similar number of races, I think, to Schumacher.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'd agree with Nigel, really. I think
Doesn't hold water. Fair enough.
I don't know. I think they are all kind of plausible theories, but it's just kind of what I've seen of Hamilton's character. It just doesn't fit with that. I think, as Nigel said, it could be, kind of financially related, or kind of, maybe that plus one of the things that you said, Freddie.
It has to be. So it's either financial, or the other thing I've just thought of, and this is a bit out there, is that he's been activating, being an activist for Black Lives Matter, for racism, for equality against racism, especially over the last 12 months, and he's done fantastic work in and out of F1. And the only thing I can think of is that Daimler or Ineos, one of them or both, are not in favour of that. That's just a possibility. I'm not saying that's true, but
I think if you look at everything that's gone on with Mercedes, and with Ola Kalenius coming on TV in Austria saying how much, Ola Kalenius being the Daimler CEO, coming on television and saying how much they support Lewis and how much they support the black livery of the car and so on, and then that filtering through to the Formula E for their Berlin rounds as well. With all of them, but it's a whole other debate, but Formula E, the only team that really took the knee in like a weird moment of silence that no one knew what was in Formula E, was Mercedes properly taking the knee and everything, all the members of the team there. And I think if you look at that, the culture that's being instigated across Mercedes is one of support for that rather than reticence.
I would agree, but that's, from our personal view, we don't know what's happening inside and what, the higher owners
we
think.
don't know what the other 11 members on the board are saying. You're right.
Yes, Ola Kalenius said that on TV, but he almost, I wouldn't say has to, but it'd be weird if he didn't
Right.
come out and say it, especially if you asked a question and it's a leading question to draw you in, you would answer that. We don't know his genuine feelings. That is the only other thing I can think of, is that there's genuine differences in the way they think about society and stuff. Yeah. Is there anything else anyone wants to add?
For me, that's one that probably, I don't know if this is me having over too much faith, but the one that holds the least water for me in terms of arguments. And that's what I want to believe, but also that is what I believe, that's not the case. I think there is support for that, and I think Mercedes aligning themselves with Hamilton in that is something that would be absolutely dying to do more of, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the only other thing is it's especially a surprise because of his activism, and he kind of sees his activism on animal rights and the environment and Black Lives Matter as going hand in hand with his racing, and
he's put his money where his mouth is, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's kind of said, I think in an interview with Will Buxton at Silverstone, he said, he kind of wants to carry on racing, so there is a black figure on the grid. There's a black figure involved at the top of the sport for others to follow. And I think that's kind of what makes it so surprising, is it's not just kind of his love of the sport itself, it's kind of everything around that seemed to keep him wanting to race.
Absolutely. So if he does leave Mercedes, or if he doesn't race this year, what do we think is going to happen? Is George Russell certain to go to Mercedes this year if Hamilton does leave?
I think it's certain that he's be wanted. I think what's different is whether he would actually get there, because yes, we've got a whole new ownership team in Williams. Yes, he was allowed to race in the Sakir Grand Prix as a substitute for Lewis Hamilton there, and they had time to organise that. But that was for a good fee to Williams. I think I've heard some figures on the grapevine, but I can't remember them, so I'm not going to make it up here. But it was in the millions of dollars paid to Williams from Mercedes, I think.
For one race?
Yeah, I think might be. Yeah.
Wow.
Like not like high millions, but
but still,
200 million pounds.
450.
If it's at least 1 million, to me, that's still quite a bit.
I mean, I can't even remember where I saw it, so it might not be anything. But backtracking. Like when Mercedes put the feelers out in 2020 around the Hungarian Grand Prix, previously a couple of weeks before that, to say to Williams, would there be possibility of us having George Russell in 2021? These discussions did happen. Williams straight out said no, and then announced him to sign for them definitely to honour his 3-year contract with them for 2021. And that's
trying to bring Sergio Perez in.
Well, that's a whole other story. I think that, there's more chances that was just a story. I think. But then you look at all of that, the bullish retainment of Russell at Williams. Why would they let him go again? Why would they say right at the last minute, no, you can have him, fine, all right, have our star driver, we'll just have Nicholas Latifi and maybe Roy Nissany or Jack Aitken. And you think they definitely want to cling on to Russell because it's their contractual right to do so, and they can do. And I think I see that being feasible. But then again, how much would Mercedes be willing to buy out Russell from Williams? And if it's going to be less to do that than it would have been to pay Hamilton and keep Russell for a season, it also seems kind of feasible that could happen, because it's cheaper than having Hamilton, when you think about it at the end of the day, is to buy out Russell and have Russell there. But it just really depends on how Williams play their cards, because if not, then they're going to have to scope out some free agents, such as a Nico Hülkenberg or something.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting Freudian slip there, but it's also, to me, I don't really see. I I think it's quite unlikely, to be honest, because I don't see what Mercedes could offer Williams that would be the same worth as them having George Russell for a season, unless they offer a Mercedes car, like F1 car for Latifi to drive over the season. Like, I just think all that Russell brings to the team, I think Mercedes would have to have an equivalent of, Russell when he came into F1 in 2019. That's the only way that if, Williams could be getting a driver, kind of like Russell, but at the start of their career, I think that's the only way you can really compensate them for it. To me, I just don't.
If Mercedes said they'd cover
Jack
Aitken's, salary, would you think they would let them say, okay, that's financially viable?
No.
Then no driver is then paid for by Williams. They're not paying any salaries to that. They can then put money like that to better use if need be, because their overall budget anyway with driver salaries is still only just around the budget cap figure anyway. So,
but it is still a race team, and it is.
You're right.
Russell brings results to the team. I know he's not scored points for them, but it's sooner rather than later he brings results in qualifying. He brings consistent pace, and I think that is an interesting point that you raise, actually. I guess that could work. I guess a lot of it will depend on kind of discussions between financial directors that we'll never be privy to.
It depends what you think Russell proved at the Zakir Grand Prix. Did he prove that he can lead and potentially win a race for Mercedes? Yes. But did he prove that to Williams? Yes. So Williams have seen, okay, this is a good championship caliber driver. We've got race winning caliber driver, and we've got him contracted. So we're going to keep him for that matter.
Yeah.
Because he's proved himself to everyone, not just to Mercedes.
Yeah. I'd agree. I just can't see it happening, to be honest. But maybe. I mean,
we're going down a very hypothetical route here.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think Hamilton will sign a new contract. But if it doesn't happen, I think they would find a way to get Russell into the seat somehow, financially or other terms. Because I don't see any other drivers that would suit Mercedes. Because if Russell is in the car this year, we will find out how good he is and how he stacks against Bottas over the course of a season. Because for now, we've only had one race on him for him to judge Russell on, which I don't think is enough. Yes, he was absolutely brilliant, but I think it would be close between him and Bottas over 23 races. I'd think.
Quite exciting.
I think Russell would do it
comfortably,
I think Russell would play more mind games than Bottas.
I don't know about. I think it might be one of those that, I guess, a bit like 2018 was, where it kind of looks like it might be close and then kind of goes away from that. In the end, there might be kind of close 2/3 of the way through the season. I don't know. I think it could be close, but I'd kind of back Russell to win it.
But if you're saying Russell is then maybe doing a similar year to Bottas, if you look how close Bottas was to finishing third in the championship, would it be Verstappen's year?
That's what I'm thinking.
No.
Would Mercedes move heaven and earth to try and get Verstappen in the first place?
You think no, Adam? You think it wouldn't bring Red Bull into play? It would still be either Bottas or Russell?
Yeah. You've not...
I disagree with that.
You've not added 50 kilograms to Mercedes' car or whatever. They've still got the best car. Russell was still comfortably faster than Bottas at Sakir and comfortably faster than the rest of the field. I think it might open up Verstappen to get more, a few more wins over the season, or maybe even Perez, kind of get some better highlight results. But I think over the season, it's, I think it'd still be a dogfight between the two Mercedes.
I think Mercedes would realise how much of an asset Hamilton has been, because I think Verstappen would run them very close and could, even beat them. If Hamilton isn't in the car this year, I'd say Verstappen he's got a very, very good chance of winning the championship, I'd say. And I think Mercedes would, like I said, I think they would realise the star driver that they've lost, because I just don't see Russell doing what Hamilton did, obviously, but I really think Bottas will prove his worth, I'd say.
So who do you think would, Nigel, who do you think would win? If it's Russell and Bottas in Mercedes and Verstappen in Red Bull, who would you back to win the title?
Verstappen. Because he had 5, depending on reliability, because last year the 3 races in Italy, he didn't finish. None of them were his fault. If Red Bull are reliable, I think Verstappen's got a very, very, very good chance if Hamilton's not there, in my opinion.
I think the key thing for me is that the difference between second and third, which was, I guess, a lot of the time the difference between Verstappen and Bottas, is a lot smaller than the difference in points between first and second.
That's a really good point.
Even if you've got the Mercedes drivers sharing the wins more evenly, that might actually make Verstappen a bit further away from second place, because first and second would be more equal.
If you look at the results across the 2020 season...
No, go on, Freddie.
If you look at the results across the 2020 season, at points at the end, Bottas was on 223 and Verstappen was on 214. Verstappen retired from 5 races. Bottas retired from 1 and then also had a puncture at the British Grand Prix, so didn't get in the points there. But it seems pretty even on races they both finished, from who finished ahead. Like sometimes it's Bottas ahead, sometimes it's Verstappen ahead. For the early rounds, there was a lot of rounds where Verstappen finished ahead of Bottas. He finished obviously ahead at Hungary. He was ahead for the majority of the Steering Grand Prix. He finished ahead in the 70th anniversary Grand Prix and so on, like all that kind of stuff. And he outraced Bottas in the majority of those races across the season. And with 5 retirements, he's only 7 points off to Bottas's essentially 2 retirements.
And he had Albon as a teammate, and with Perez, that's going to massively help.
In constructors wise, yeah, but
Well,
the amount of if you take away good point. If you take away Hamilton, then it's either Verstappen or Bottas. In 2020, if you take away Hamilton, the winner would be Bottas or Verstappen then, basically. And feasibly across the season, it could have been either of them relatively equal amount of times. So it probably would be actually a really interesting title fight.
Yeah, well, if you take Hamilton out of like the last 7 years, it probably will be.
Well, yeah. 2016 would have been fantastic. Ricciardo versus Raikkonen or something for the year.
But yeah, I do think it would be close between Russell and Bottas, because I don't think Russell is at the Verstappen or Leclerc level. For me, those two are the 2 guys at the top of F1. Now, you could even argue that with Hamilton, I'd say. I think the tide is turning that Hamilton, even if he races this year, he won't be the best, perhaps, because I think you could have made an argument last year that Verstappen was just as good as Hamilton, if not more impressive.
I think Hamilton's still... Yeah, I guess impressive is a different kind of metric in some ways, because it's based off, what the expectations were. But I think in terms of pure, all-round racing ability, I think Hamilton's still ahead, in terms of maybe not...
He's complete.
Maybe not, maybe not in terms of absolute pace, maybe he's on the level with those guys, but in terms of, just complete racing and consistency as well, because he can do it for both races in the season. I'd put Hamilton ahead, but I'd also put Russell in the group with Verstappen and Leclerc.
Yeah, I can see that.
If I didn't, I think it'd only be because he'd not been at a top team, and Verstappen and Leclerc have. Verstappen's been there for 4 or 5 years now, and Leclerc has been for 1. And
if you look at
not a top team last season, but I think that would be the only drawback. I think in terms of potential and showcasing that potential, he is right up there.
All those drivers are just qualifying gods. Like Leclerc took 7 poles in his first year at Ferrari and did better in qualifying this year. And you look at the way he just walked over Vettel. Verstappen walked over everyone in qualifying since Ricciardo left. Russell, the same, just walked over everyone in qualifying his entire life. So these guys can have pace in the car just for days. They're the fight of the future.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll see how it develops, but things are getting very interesting if Hamilton doesn't sign a contract very soon. We're going to change the format of these Winging It F1 episodes, aren't we, Freddie? So we're going to have another episode maybe later this week about something else, just for how we're doing it. So for now, I'll say thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.